Our next speaker is Rabbi Avrohom Zeidman. Now, gift has become like Coca-Cola. Everyone knows gift. Wherever your shops you go, we all know about Project Gift and what it is. And maybe if you have time just to say a couple minutes and tell us exactly what the mission of gift. And that's why we had this seminar actually starts off. We were at a rabbinical conference and we were having a chat. And I really felt this is something that a lot of people have spoken to. How do we make our children into givers? People are naturally selfish and everyone's focused about themselves, and it's such an important value, as we've seen. We heard from Rabbi Kirsch in building a home. How do we turn our kids from me to we? Rabbi Zeidman.
Thank you. So a couple of words on gift. Literally, I'll do a couple of words and then we'll get straight into talk. The goal of gift is to create givers. That's it. The goal of gift is how can we create people who are going to be focused on not what's in it for me, but what's in it for we, how we can become givers. And there's three parts to it. How we do that is via helping out families. We got about 235 households that we give out food to every single week, and that requires also lots of volunteering inside that. That's one section. Another section is volunteering. And we said volunteers to be able to help people in their homes, tutoring club, and going to care homes and so be able to help out. And the last side is education, where we have an educational team where we go to all the primary schools, all the secondary schools really, universities, adults, YPs, and further, all doing different sessions about giving. So most likely, if your kids are in school, most likely we're running sessions inside there, all focus on how to get our kids to become givers. So the talk is turning our kids from me to we. So let's start off with the me. Your lovely little darlings, when they were young, I don't know how old they are now, but when they're babies, they are natural born takers. Selfish brats. And if you were to kind of put it into a GPS signal, the GPS signal will be me, 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 continuously, all the way down. It's just totally self-absorbed me. And you can see this. You get a baby, can't speak, but I'll just do the words for you. Mummy, I'm really thirsty. Can I have some, can I have a drink now? I gave you a drink 20 minutes ago. Okay, in 2 minutes. No, Mummy, I want a drink right now. Okay, in 1 minute. No, now! Okay, fine. Okay. Put the baby down. Okay, Mummy, I'm kind of feeling wet down here. A bit of room service maybe. You want a child changing a nappy? All right, in a few minutes. Okay. Totally self-absorbed, absolutely selfish. Now, we shouldn't be concerned about that because it's natural and it's also incredibly healthy. That is how our children are meant to be brought up. And that's when we're actually caring for our children, that care actually is going to be developing later on that they have trust in Hashem. A child doesn't stress, where's my next meal coming from? 1 minute. I never thought about my next meal. They don't worry about the next meal. They don't worry about having concerns which won't be dealt with because I've got 2 slaves and they're going to deal with absolutely everything that I have to. There's no stress whatsoever. And that is so incredibly important that a child starts off with that, having this feeling that every single whim that I want, every single desire, I don't have to stress because it's all being dealt with. And that is what helps build emunah when they're older. When we're talking about emunah, which is, again, badly translated as faith, it's not about, first of all, it's obviously not about blind faith. It's not about academic. For me to say, basically, yeah, I can prove God, that's not emunah. If I can say, yeah, I can prove my mother's my mother, that's not a relationship with my mother. That's not emunah. Emunah is taking the intellect and bringing it into your heart. You've got the adata hayoim, the proof of God's over here, stage 1, but then the avoida, the work is the hashavos el lavavecha, to take into your hearts. And someone just says, yeah, I know there's God because I can prove it. That's not emunah. It's living emotionally together with what you know academically. By the way, in Petachon is then taking it from your emotions into your actual actions and then doing actions based on it. And when you look at the word emunah, the root of the word emunah is you see the word mother. And in the same way that I know my mother is there for me and always going to look after me, then you judo move it, you take all that, all the love that your kids have ever had, you say, yes, and they know and they emotionally feel so connected, and that mummy and daddy will always look after me, and you kind of like judo move it and say, well, Hashem loves you just as much, even more. And when you have such a strong foundation in that can actually move towards seeing how much Hashem loves me. And that's why also as well, sometimes, again, not always, but sometimes some people are having issues of connecting to Hashem. It can be actually because they've missed this aspect with the parents. So what we're seeing now is when we're training when we have our children, which is focusing on me, it's not, oh no, what am I going to do? It's actually incredibly healthy, and it's have the feeling to realize deep down in the psyche, wow, there is someone who's giving to me, and someone who absolutely loves me, and that will be used future. I mean, I've had conversations with some people, and they say, look, you work for gifts, and your whole job, which it is just actually trying to. For the last few years, I've just been studying. Really, I do Gemara in the morning, but then otherwise, all my study is just about learning about the middle of Chesed. So if you come up to me and say, my kid's, he's kind of selfish. Can you help me? How old's the kid? Turning 3. The answer is, at this stage, don't work on making them a giver. All you need to do is let them receive. Let them focus on the me while we focus, on how to be able to give. And our love will be able to, our giving will serve as deep subconscious value within their psyche. What true love really looks like, and the more we can do that, the more that when they're older, they can actually start becoming givers once experiencing, again, not even academic, not intellectually but emotionally feeling this connection, that even though they're very young, it all stays, and that will enable them to become givers in later life. Okay? So now the question is, okay, fine, so please tell me, when can I train them? Well, so when is the right stage that I can actually start training my kids not to focus on me and, start giving? Okay. So we have to actually only do it when the child is ready. And sometimes I've also found is that we might also want to start too early. There is a psychologist, Jean Piaget, and he talked about that children have to go through different psychological developments. And the first stage is from 0 to 2. All the kids are doing is trying to find out actually how their functions work and realize actually, oh, this is an object. You mean when I close my eyes and open it, it's still there again? And they're trying to learn about that. That isn't a stage where all of their learning about giving is by seeing it by us, but not that we're training them to give. From 0 to 2, no. Then you move from 2, but this next stage is really from 2 until 7. And between 2 and 7, it gets more developmental, be able to see actually outside of themselves. Because when you get a 2-year-old, they are totally egocentric. All they can see is the world themselves. And this is a psychological experiment about this. And it's not about good, bad. This is basically, you have to realize this is where they're up to. So the test they did is called the mountain task, is that you've got the psychologist standing over here. You get the 2-year-old or 3-year-old standing over here. And then right in front of you have this little model with a mountain. On this side of the mountain, you have a few Lego men. And on the other side of the mountain, let's say we have a few animals. So you say to the child, okay, what do you see on your side of the mountain? A few Lego men. Come around over here. What do you see on this? Okay, a few animals. Then you put the child back over here. Okay, and the child's now looking at the Lego men. And you say to the child, you're standing behind the mountain, what can I see? And the younger the child, it takes between 2 and 3, and moving along it, the child will say, if the child can see the Lego man, they'll say the psychologist can see the Lego man. Why? Because what I see is what I get, and I am the universe. And you can see that as well, it's also cute as well. What are you doing? I'm hiding. Okay, it's total egocentric. It means basically if I can't see, then no one else in the world can see. And therefore, for us to be able to start focusing on trying to train our kids to now start giving, now, do you realize there's a broader world? It just doesn't compute. It's too early. And what's quite shocking, actually, this stage actually goes all the way from 2 to 7. Now, I'm not saying you can't start training kids become givers when they're 7, but it's a developmental stage. And it seems to be that only at the age of 7 then do you reach the peak of, now I totally appreciate there's a world outside of myself. I heard actually an idea that was op sharing. which is a custom, an option like only when at 3 be able to get a haircut. Why at 3? And it's because before that, the kids can't see there's a world outside of themselves. And now at the age of 3, it's just the beginning of a start that you can start seeing, oh, there's a world of commandments, there's a world of mitzvahs. You mean actually, I can actually do a mitzvah myself, making sure not to cut the payas. And if we do it at 3, because now they're starting to develop and see a world outside of themselves. But before that, them learning to be able to give is just being able to experience it from us, as opposed to us training them, you must be a giver. I'm not saying you can't say anything until the age of 7 again about them themselves. Rav Olber famously had a whole book, Zorea Binyan, and when it comes to parenting, there's always 2 parts to parenting. There is Zorea, planting, and Boina, which is building. So planting is teaching values. It's like drip messages that develop into natural, organic values for life. That's planting. But there's also building. And building is a brick. And it's putting down a boundary to make sure that the plant doesn't topple over before it's strong enough in its own right to stand up straight. If you would just leave a plant, you want to be able to develop a plant, and you want things organically, you want the values to start sprouting, but if you just wait for the inner values to develop, well, you're going to have problems because they're going to be knocking over things. So you have to be able to put down bricks. And when you have a plant, you put a stick down in the ground to be able to help keep it straight. When it's strong enough, once the stem's grown and now it's stronger, then you don't need the stick anymore. So it seems to be that building is there to be able to complement Zorea, the foundation building values. And therefore, even before the child gets to the stage of having these values, understanding that there's a world outside of myself that I need to be able to give, then of course we can start putting in bricks like no hitting allowed in the house, or you get treats when you start sharing, okay, or no snatching, or the concept of we need to take turns. Those are bricks, those are rules. Their values, they'll come later. They'll start off with the values by seeing it in us, by the way we treat our children, and when they get older, then we can start training them how they can also become givers. And now we can finally get to the stage, How can I get my kids? Well, no, when they get to the stage, now how do I train them to become a giver? And again, it's first of all developmental stage, but it also depends on the individual child. And some children, they take longer to be able to develop. And again, there's no problem with that whatsoever. We have to start off with allowing them to have a strong emunah, and then we move on to then moving into the we. Okay. So now let's go on to this stage. Let's say they're 7 plus, and now we want to train them to become givers. In order to be able to answer that, let me first of all start off, what do we mean by a giver? Now, as I said, I go into lots of primary school. My job is to go into all the primary schools, secondary schools, and start running sessions. And one of my first sessions generally is to actually discuss, I ask a question. And I ask the class, I say, can someone please give me an example of giving? And it's incredible that in almost all the schools, primary and secondary, and again, I say different, or universities as well, actually, it's funny, the answers I get almost sound the same. And they go like this. Number 1, classic example of giving, helping a little old lady cross the road. I ask you, have you ever in your life, ever found a little lady? I have once in my life did I have that little old lady. That's in Israel. Somebody's like, grabbed my arm, okay, fine, okay. Because I've never, other than that, I've never had, it's like you're waiting for these old ladies waiting to cross the road. It's like, take a ticket. Oh, here we go. But that's the example I get everywhere. It's incredible. Okay, helping a little old lady cross the road. Okay, what else have we got? Visiting someone in hospital, caring for the elderly, giving tzedakah, looking after the disabled, or picking up someone's dropped shopping. And I hear these answers. They all sound pretty the same. But when I'm listening to these, I realize actually there's 2 misconceptions about giving. When I'm listening, I'm talking about almost all the primary schools and secondary schools when I ask this. These are the lists I get, and I realize there's 2 fundamental misconceptions here. Misconception number 1, all the examples are always that chesed is outside of the home. I don't hear the examples inside the home. It's always when you're out there, that's when there's chesed. And it's so rare to be able to hear, actually, no, there's chesed examples inside the home. Misconception number one. And misconception number two is that it seems to be that chesed is almost always only exclusively with helping out the vulnerable. When you're doing chesed, it's always helping out those who are less than you, so to speak. That, I'm empowered, I'm somewhat the hero who's needed to be able to help someone who has less than me. But chesed is way bigger than that. Being a giver is not just helping out those in need. It is far broader than that. But yet, I don't know what it is about, maybe it's just the word chesed and giving is being used, but we always seem to exclusively say that giving is about helping those who have less and not about any other type of relationship. So I want to go through those two misconceptions. Let's go through number one, the misconception, chesed is outside of the home. I would say strongly, and got support for this, the quality of your ben adam l'chavero is evident through the quality of your relationships at home. If you really want to judge where you're holding as far as your ben adam l'chavero is concerned, how are you in the home? Chesed's great. Chesed's greatest form is when it's not done in public. And in fact, there's something called chesed shel emes, the true chesed. And what's the example of the chesed shel emes? It's when you're walking on a road, there's just you and there's a dead body and no one else around, and you bury the dead body and you don't tell anyone about it. That's called chesed shel emes. The greatest chesed possible is that there's just you, someone else who will never say thank you because they're dead, and you bury them and you don't tell anyone about it. That is chesed shel emes. That is the greatest chesed. It is private. Nobody knows about it. And when we do chesed in the home, that chesed in the home is the chesed shel emes. Because when you do chesed in the home, it's private. There's no fanfare about it. You're not going to have any people who now feel indebted towards you. I helped all these people out there. You're not going to be able to get that. And it happens to be the hardest because there is this lack of recognition. I remember actually Rabbi Kellerman, he said actually, you want to know what the greatest chesed is? You want to know not more than greatest chesed. Do you want a feeling of spirituality? Okay, I want to have the really most spiritual experience you can actually ever have is when you're changing your baby's dirty nappy. There is nothing more holy than that. So you have a baby who is in distress, is sitting in their own, and discomfort, uncomfortable, can't help themselves, needs you, and you go and you help there. That is spirituality. That is really, really spirituality. We somehow don't feel that. We feel that, leave the kids at home, and then we'll go to shul. That is where the ruchnius is. That's where it is. And it's hidden, and that's a chesed shel emes, because nobody's going to know about it. And your baby ain't going to thank you. Maybe later, please God. And if my wife was to ask me, can you please help? I need some jobs around the house. Can you please help me? And I need the kids. And I say, I love to help you, but I need to take my kids to the gift warehouse to do the packathon on Thursday between 6 and 6:45. I'm clearly something's going to skew over there, but it's a lot of fun, by the way. But when you're doing gift packaging, for those who are taking part, not right. But when you're doing the gift packathon at 6:45 and you're giving, again, it's a lot of music and it's fun and there's a lot of people around there. And at home, when there's no fanfare, that is where the real chesed shel emes is. That's where it really starts, and we need to let our kids know about that. When I was a bocher, before I was married, and I was eating out at people's homes, every house happened to be like an extra point on my shidduch file. You never know, actually, who might be my in-laws. I had no issue whatsoever tidying the table. Yeah. It was great, actually. I mean, I found I had no yetzer hara not to be able to help out. But in my home, right. And Rav Dessler, talking about Kiddush Hashem, actually comes up with this whole concept, I think it's beautiful as well, about concentric circles. And this is on the essay about Kiddush Hashem. And a lot of people say, I want to change the world. I do, actually. There we go. I want to change the world. If I can't change the world, okay, fine, I'll just work for Nebuch. I'll just work with all the Jews. If I can't work with all the Jews, I'll change Northwest London. If I can't do that, I'll change my home, and then, whatever, forget it. That's it. It's not really working. Doing a mitzvah by myself, that's not really Kiddush Hashem. Says Rav Dessler that what is a bigger Kiddush Hashem than in changing the entire world? A bigger Kiddush Hashem and change the entire world is just actually helping out the Jewish people. Do you know a bigger Kiddush Hashem than helping out just the Jewish people? Just helping out Northwest London. You know what a bigger Kiddush Hashem than Northwest London is? Helping out just with your shul. You know what a bigger Kiddush Hashem that is? Actually in your home. You know what the greatest Kiddush Hashem is? is when you're in a room by yourself, there's no one else out there, it's just you and yourself, and you do a mitzvah. That is the greatest Kiddush Hashem, better than all this. But you know what's even greater, by the way, than doing a mitzvah by yourself? When you actually start now do a mitzvah to your family. And you know what's greater than that? Than actually with your shul, than North West London, than all the Jews and the entire world. It goes like this. If you're starting outwards, then that's where all the fanfare comes from. The greater Kiddush Hashem is, no, make it more private. The smaller shmor, more you're doing it for the right reasons, not because of, well, I just want to be famous. And therefore, it's a bigger Kiddush Hashem smaller, bigger Kiddush Hashem smaller, bigger, 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 bigger. Now that you're by yourself, you know what's greater than being by yourself over here? Is I got so much love, I can't just hold it in. I got to do more. And then from there, it starts helping out to your family. That's a bigger Kiddush Hashem. And then just my family, I've given and given and given. Their cups are all overflowing with so much giveness. I just have to be able to go further. There's so much more of me. I can't hold myself. And then it goes to bigger Kiddush Hashem. And then bigger and bigger. So it's very interesting. So you can do the same action. This could be the smallest Kiddush Hashem or the biggest Kiddush Hashem. It depends where you're coming from. If you're starting from out, then the avodah the work is to go from out, inner. Once you go inner, then you go out. So all the people who are trying to say, I want to change the entire world, well, first of all, let's start off. You want to do it better than that. Let's do it without the fanfare. Once you've got all the way into the middle, then you can start moving out. It's very interesting. It's two people doing the same actions. One is actually less Kiddush Hashem, one's more, depending whether they started in or whether they started out. And therefore, when it comes to giving, the greatest giving is not where it's, I've changed the whole world, I've helped all these organizations. No, the greatest giving is actually starting with the home. Once you have that, and you want to be able to have a more of an outpouring, then it's greater. And then you start helping more people and more charities and more events and more volunteering and more everything. That's great, but it starts over here. If it has this, without this, then going inner will be a greater Kiddush Hashem and more giving. I'm not, by the way, saying, therefore, just stay inside the home until you perfected that and move further forwards. We have to, we need to be able to help everywhere it's necessary. But as far as what is a greater, let's say, for example, you have a conflict between helping in the home or helping outside, then clearly with the concentric circles, it is greater to be able to help in the home than out. If you can do the home and out, great. But priorities is the home, where it's more hidden, where you won't be known as a Baal Chesed. That is actually where you are a greater giver. Okay, that is misconception number one. I'm going to give time for questions. Okay, misconception number two. Misconception number two is that Chesed is only towards the vulnerable. Not true. Chesed, the middle of Chesed, which is actually loosely translated as kindness, and really actually I think the most accurate translation of chesed actually is altruism. That is actually definition of altruism. You want the Hebrew word for altruism? Is chesed. Chesed is an outward focusing midah, focusing on all others, not just those who have less. And if this was a primary school, and we'll pretend it is, I'll show the action. It goes like this. I think actually all types of relationships can be boiled down to four. Any relationship you have with colleagues, work colleagues, friends, family, all relationships, there's only going to be four different types of relationships. And the four relationships is, we've got a video camera, so it's right over here. It's this, and this. There we go, okay? And now I start testing it in primary school, start saying, okay, fine, let's try the action, start testing. Okay, so it's this, and this. So I'll go through all four of those, okay? There is that one, me, a relationship with myself, a relationship with my peers, a relationship with those who have more than me, a relationship with those who have less than me. And I think literally you can boil it down, all relationships, into those four different types. And all these four are different ways of giving. Let's start with the first one. The first one we have is this one. Now this one actually, when I start giving to myself, that's not really chesed, but it's definitely a prerequisite. You cannot, if you don't start, the greatest love of all, learning to love yourself is the greatest love of all. There we go. Thank you. If you don't love yourself, you can't forget the other three. Forget the other three. Without love of self, we can't even start with the other three. Without the me, we can't work with the we. We have to be able to make sure that our kids are confident and that they love themselves. And once they start loving themselves, then they have the ability to be able to start going to all the other three. And therefore, that's again, starting with a solid foundation of that when the kids are selfish brats, which is healthy again, is that we're giving and giving and giving and giving to them. That shows that we love, and that will start building inside them a deep self-worth. When they have a deep self-worth, then you can start giving. Giving is when actually you have a cup and the cup is overflowing, then you have the ability to give to others. But if the cup is empty, then there's nothing to be able to give to the other people. We say, "V'yahavta l'recha k'moicha." The Torah could have said quite easily, "V'yahavta l'recha," love your neighbor. It doesn't. It says, love your neighbor as yourself, which means as a prerequisite, you have to love yourself first. We cannot love other people. It's not proper love. You can self-sacrifice. You can definitely become a schmutter. You can definitely basically just give yourself off entirely to other people, but you can't love and you can't properly give unless, first of all, you have a love of yourself. So I'm going to give just maybe 4 examples of how we can develop that, of how to make our kids be able to have this self-love. Again, for starters, it's when the child's young that we're giving, giving, giving. But they need to see inside us that we have self-love. And if children see that we don't have self-love, then they're not going to be able to develop it themselves. And a very, very obvious one where you can see that is bad-mouthing ourselves. And you see it sometimes, basically, it's like, oh, I'm such an idiot. Oh, I'm so stupid. Oh, I'm always such a scatterbrain. It's like, and when you hear that, that means it's okay to speak bad about yourself. There's a story about the Chofetz Chaim. He was on a train, and someone said about the Chofetz Chaim. The Chofetz Chaim is made. What are you reading? The Chofetz Chaim is like, yeah, it's rubbish. Said the Chofetz Chaim. Excuse me, you can't say that. Nah, it's not like the Chofetz Chaim he's the biggest gadol. It's like, nah, he's not a gadol. He's the Chofetz Chaim. Who's the Chofetz Chaim? You better not speak the Chofetz Chaim like that. You speak that one more time, I'm going to hit you. The Chofetz Chaim, he's a nobody. He's not. He got slapped. He got to the station, and everyone's like, the Chofetz Chaim! Where's Chofetz Chaim? You just slapped him. And the Chofetz Chaim said, I deserved it. I deserved it. I spoke lashon hara about myself. I deserved it. If we're speaking negatively about ourselves, and it's just incredible how many people, I hear it, really. If we're talking negatively about ourselves, that means the kids, they're going to pick that up. And they're going to also think it's totally okay to speak negatively about ourselves. It's not. It's really, really damaging. Really damaging. We have to speak beautifully about ourselves. We have to love ourselves. They have to know that we believe in them. That will really build self-confidence. That we totally believe in them, and we know that, and of course, that means we have to give them tasks which they can complete. Not to ever give them a task which is too hard for them. It's got to be that they can do it, and we believe they can do it, and then they're going to do it. Another example as well, possibly, is actually tell them the translation of Modani. Shechazata bin Ishmasi, you turned my soul within me. Rabbi Manasecha, great is our faith in you, Hashem. Doesn't say that. It says, Rabbi Manasecha, great is your faith in us. Which means is that when you're waking up, the first words, as we heard beforehand, before I say I love you, honey, the first words in the morning is, Hashem, you believe in me. If I'm breathing, if I'm alive right now, that means I'm alive because Hashem thinks I can do it. Because Hashem's not going to keep us alive just be chapping as many as possible. If we're alive, that means Hashem says, no, it's a benefit for you to be here because you can achieve. We need to tell the children that. You wake up in the morning, why should I think I'm so important? But I'm terrible at school, things are going really bad. You know what? Well, I know someone who believes in you. First of all, it's us. We believe in you. We believe in you. And Hashem. You wake up in the morning, Hashem says, Rabbi Manasecha. And I used to do actually, I've never seen this written down anywhere. I came up with my own meditative powers. And you might think I'm mad for this, but maybe if it works for you, it works for me. That when I was in Yeshiva, actually every night I used to go down to the Kosel after night Seder. Every single night for quite a few years, like 3 years. And I used to do this exercise. I used to hold my breath. There's been a problem, I can't hold my breath and talk at the same time. But there we go. So so imagine that, I hold my breath, and I was thinking, you know what? Okay, so this might be a bit too morbid, but maybe I'm not going to breathe out. Maybe that was it. Maybe I just took my very last breath. And that's it. Maybe right now I'm going to drop dead. Again, not with young kids, this might be maybe I'm going to drop down dead. If I breathe out now, it's not just how Hashem created the world. Hashem is in charge of every single minutiae detail. That means Hashem now is making me breathe out. And that means Hashem right now, this is the biggest testimony that I am important, that I have a job to be able to do, that Hashem now is letting me breathe out. That means he says, I want you alive, you've got a mission in this world. Wow. Hashem says he wants me alive. If you're breathing right now, it means Hashem says you've got a mission. You still can do the mission. You haven't completed it yet, and you can do it, and you're still breathing. That means he believes in you. Okay, so that is working with self. And once we have self, now we can develop the other three. And then the one, which is the classic one, is that one, helping those who are more vulnerable than me. Me helping out those who are less. And with this, I think they need to be able to see it from us, that we are focused on that in the home. We have to ask of them in the home to do things. They have to see of us outside the home, and we have to ask of them outside the home. Let's go through those 4 categories. Here we go. What they need to see from us is examples now. What they need to see from us in the home about helping those who have less. Well, as we said beforehand, and repeated now a few times, is that they need to see how we care and have patience for them and their siblings. And especially now, if they've got a little sibling, they can actually see exactly what we did to them. And when we have a little sibling, it's like, ugh. We never do that. But rather we show when they see us looking at their little brother, their little sister, and even if it's not, when we did it to them, they will see, you have to help the vulnerable. Also how we treat, for those who have cleaners, how we treat the cleaners, which is a very big thing. How do we treat those inside the home, those who are, again, who were in a position of power, when they see how we treat other people, they learn that for themselves. What do we ask of them in the home? We ask of them in the home when it comes to less, is to help out your younger siblings. We have to build that. You need to help out the younger siblings. And it could also be as well the older siblings who are struggling. To be able to put them aside and say, look, you have to realize that what's easy for you might not actually be easy for them. And I know that you find it really easy to be able to do maths, but they're struggling in maths over here. And that's why they need to have more time. Maybe actually do you want to be able to see if you can help them, ... What they need to see from us outside of the home. What they need to see from us outside of the home is which is a huge one, is how do we treat those who are asking for money at the door? It is such a big one, and it really is. If they see us in shul, how are we treating the people who are coming up? They need to see that. Well, before I even say anything, according to the Rambam, you've got that 8 levels giving tzedakah, right? And the bottom level of giving tzedakah is when you do it begrudgingly. It says a shach, no, you misread it. If you internally don't want to be able to give, and you feel internally, when someone's asking money for tzedakah, that's the lowest level of tzedakah. If you show it, the Rambam says mefurish, he says absolutely explicitly, you've lost all your mitzvah. If you show someone, you've lost your mitzvah. Any reward you get, you've lost the whole lot. It says it very clearly. It says absolutely clearly. In the Rambam, the Shach brings a contradiction between the two and says, if you show that. How do we treat the people at the door? My father-in-law calls them mezakah. Not mashalach, mezakah. They're people who strengthen us. There's one family in Edgware, and I think it's beautiful. I think this is so, he calls it the mitzvah man. And the mitzvah man is coming to the door, and by the door, they have the mitzvah man box. And the mitzvah man box by the door they've got cookies inside there, and they've got water, and they've got a few other treats as well. And anytime the mitzvah man comes to the door, you then actually offer them some of the food. And you say, would you like to have some water? Would you like to have some biscuits? Already there for the mitzvah man. And they're going to see from that, how is it that we're treating other people in need? Another side as well, from outside of the home, is how do we treat the security guard who's cold outside? When we're going into shul, thank you very much, CST, for keeping me safe. Thank you. And they will see that. And from then, they'll also realize, again, not you need to do it, they'll see it themselves from us, how to be able to treat those who are more vulnerable. What do we ask of them outside of the home? One idea, which is we have to make it fun for kids to be able to give tzedakah, is that we could create a tzedakah account for our kids. And if we give pocket money, then we also give them actually some money for tzedakah. Again, it doesn't hurt them because they're not taking from them. That's kind of hard. Again, it depends on what level, what developmental stage they're at. But to say, it's just a nice freebie. You get money for tzedakah, and also we're going to put into your account or your little box over here, your tzedakah box. We're going to give you money, and you can pick whatever tzedakah you want to give it to. And now they'll empower them to feel the joy without the pain, because it doesn't cost anything, without the pain, but give the joy of, wow, I get to be able to choose to, and I get to see someone else's pain, I choose to give it to. It's an easy idea. If you're giving pocket money anyway, to empower them to be able to give money to tzedakah. And also, we need to be able to ask them to be able to, outside the home, to notice other people's pain. Also, looking at the time, also outside the house as well, if they're in secondary school, we have during lunch breaks, we have lunch and learns, lunch and do's, and these are all a lot of fun. Our lunch and do's is that we're helping out a different charity every single week, doing a hands-on fun activity, but you don't keep it, you get to give it. And we run that in lots of the secondary schools, and tell the kids, again, not force it, but maybe you want to do this. It's a lot of fun. It's getting them to be able to focus outside. I've got a few more examples, but we're going to carry on. If we've got time, I'm going to tell you a bit more of that, okay? And then also, very important as well, that they should focus on those in school who don't have friends, which there's always in every class, unfortunately. Especially if your kid is one of the popular kids, to be able to start saying, look, focus on, have you ever noticed, there's always those kids out there who maybe not have friends. Maybe you want to look after them a little bit. Okay, so we've done this one, which is the start of all, and now we've done the classic one, which is this one. And then we go to peers. And this is totally giving. When I give to my wife, I don't help her because she's a nebuch. I don't feel really sorry for her and start feeling like, oh, it's like, no, there's none of that. I give to my wife because I love her. And that is very much giving. Giving means my focus is totally upon her. It's not what's in it for me, it's how I can be able to give. And that is very much chesed, because it's just chesed means focus outwards. It doesn't have to be this, it is that. So what do they need to see from us in the home? Which is classic, but they need to see, how do I treat my spouse? Or how to treat my wife personally. They need to be able to see that. And with that as well, obviously not in private, but how much more so in public, never, ever, ever to put each other down. I don't know why, but sometimes there's guests and they feel that it's a public forum that you're allowed to start talking negatively about, in a jokey way. Yeah, I mean, she always forgets everything. It's like, his toys, and he's always with his toys. It's why are you telling me I don't want to hear negative things about each other's spouse? And the kids as well, to start saying, mummy's. It's obvious, but there we go. It's vital not to be able to see how we treat our biggest peer. What we ask of them inside the home about the respect for siblings. Now again, even if they're not at the developmental stage to be able to actually get the drip, to be able to get the planting, you can always put the boundaries in. And the rules in this house is there's no fighting. We communicate through speech, or whatever ones you can do. You can always put boundaries in, but the concept is their peers they're dealing with in the home are their siblings. Not so the younger siblings, the ones who are closest to their age. What they need to see from us outside the home. How do we speak about our neighbours? With my neighbour, I'll give an example over here as well. My neighbour is not someone in need. My neighbour is just my neighbour. But I just found actually every so often I forget to take out the bins. So now the thing is that I always take out the neighbour's bins. It's just done now. And it's quite good. See, my kids, they want to take out my neighbour's bins. I say, no. I'll take out the neighbour's bins, okay, and then you take out our bins. Because if you take out our bins, you're doing kibbud avim, and I'm gonna you're doing kibbud av because I need to take the bins out anyway. It's my job. So if I take it out, I'm just doing my job, right? But if you take it out, then you're doing kibbud av, and I can do the neighbour's bins. And they see that, and they say, why are we taking out the neighbour's bins? Because we have an opportunity to give. Let's do it. And it's clear now. So I take out the neighbours' bins, and they take out my bins. There's more of mine than neighbours, yeah. And then also, what do we ask them outside of the home? To be respectful of friends. Okay, so now we've got this, we got this, and now let's do about that one. Rav Dessler says that Hakaras HaTov is totally focused on giver. If you're a Baal Chesed, then you have Hakaras HaTov, you have gratitude. Gratitude comes from the concept of, wow, you gave me something, I'm a total external, wants to give and give, and you've actually given me something, I have to be able to give back to you, at least within words. And when it comes to this type of giving, it's the idea of having, being gratitude, giving respect, and giving honor. And that is also part of being that midah of giving. What do they need to see from us inside and outside the home? How do we talk about our parents? And more to the point, how do we talk about the in-laws? How do we talk about their teachers? Come back from parents' evening, those teachers are such, they just don't get it. Basically, it's like, you know what, I know, you got these teachers, you're just going to have to just deal with the teachers, because that's like, it's destroying, or it's like, if you pay for private school, you're just wasting your money. If you basically, they're the ones who are passing down the Masorah, those are the ones who are actually teaching, and if we, and again, sometimes subconsciously just go, it has an effect on them. They see that, and therefore they won't have that respect, and therefore they won't be able to give respect and honor to their teachers. What do we ask of them in the home? We should demand respect from our children, that they have respect for us. It's totally legitimate. It's like talking to my kids. I'm sorry, 1 minute. I can't speak to you when you speak to me like that. I want to be able to help you. I want to talk about it, but I can't talk to you when you're speaking like that. We're not our friend. We're not our kids' friends. We're not friends. We're their parents. We're their parents. Of course, it always helps as well, but it doesn't have to be limited to this. It always helps if the father's always focused on the wife's honour and the wife's focused on the husband's. It's always easier when I'm in the house and then my kids say something to my wife. It's like, oh, wait. That's not how you speak to mummy. And she does the same thing to me. But you should also be able to, and it's not a Guyver thing, and this is taken to an extreme, in which case it really could be, but generally it's not. It's healthy. The kids need to know, no, there is a hierarchy over here. This is who I am. This is who you are. And you show respect, and I'm here totally dedicated my life towards being able to give to you. But they have to realize there's a hierarchy. And once you've got that, once you have that respect, then they'll also be able to gain from you. Okay. And what we ask them outside of the home, that they show respect to teachers even if they don't like them. Yes, let the kids vent, and they need to be able to get it all out. And then when they're in a calmer stage, it's like, okay, fine, but you have to realize they're teachers. Okay. The subcategory of this is once you get this, then you move it towards Hashem. Once you now, basically, once you get the Emunah, it starts off with, we got Kibbud Avim, which is on the side of Benad and the Makom. So you've got, your 5 over here. One is Hashem, don't bow down to idols, don't take Hashem's name in vain, keep Shabbos. And you've got the 5th one all of a sudden, is honour your father and mother. I don't understand, it should be there. It should be on this one, which is don't murder, don't commit adultery, don't steal, don't lie, and don't be jealous. It should be on this side, not on the other side. But yet you see it's on this side because the way we relate to our parents is the way we're going to be relating towards Hashem. And therefore, the subcategory of this is when they show respect to us and to their teachers, that would also be how we were able to relate to Hashem. So how can create, and again, not that Hashem needs anything, although Hashem allows us to give to him. It's quite funny that. Hashem allows us to give to him even though he doesn't need anything. So what do they need to see from us in the home? They need to see, to be able to give to Hashem, is that we're talking to Hashem. Not that we're doing brachot, not that we're talking to Hashem. They need to see that, and we need to be thankful towards Hashem. What we ask of them inside the home is according to their level, and again, this is a whole talk in itself, again, according to their level, to be able to start off with saying please and thank yous. When it comes to my kids, when they're younger, I don't tell them to say thank you to Hashem. I start off with say thank you to me. And tell more to mummy. Please and thank yous. That please and thank yous then develops afterwards too. Oh, it's also Hashem also. And again, they're hearing drip drip all over the place because they hear me speaking to Hashem. And the drip drip is now they're saying thank you to Hashem. Do you want to say thank you to Hashem? Please say thank you Hashem. Thank you Hashem. Do you want to say it in a proper way? No. Okay, fine. Just say thank you Hashem. Right. And then develop afterwards that thank you Hashem turns into a saying it proper, going into brachos. It doesn't start off with say the bracha. It's the concept of please and thank yous, which all is the midah of chesed, which then gets developed into saying it the proper way. But the real important thing is to be able to actually do it via the please and thank yous. Okay? What they need to see from us outside of the home is just when we're seeing nature, to be able to continuously, thank you Hashem, thank you Hashem, thank you Hashem, beautiful Hashem. Wow, look at this. Wow. What we ask of them outside of the home is actually the way they treat the shul. I think it's very important the way they treat the shul. My kids for a long time didn't want to go to shul because they knew actually that if they're in shul, and again, not in a harsh way, they're in shul, you're not allowed to, not one word is allowed to say in shul. So it's like, so they were actually, so can I go in for a little bit? Yeah, for sure, you're welcome to come in, come out. And when they came to shul, which maybe later than other kids, they realized, and again, not in a horrible way, they had real respect. And actually, when they went to certain shul, they saw people talking, it's like, what's going on? And it's like, no, this is how we give respect. This is how we give outwards of selling myself towards Hashem. Okay. And to be able to have shleimus, to have completion, it's not, it seems to be that each one, that we're more towards one than the other. We're more good towards this one, or that one. But to create a real giver, we actually need to, if we work on that character trait, then it will be able to go into each one of those. There are certain people who are amazing at being the hero. It's great, but when it comes to the peers at home, it's just that they're not working on that. It could be those who are great at the peers, but all of a sudden, when it comes to helping out those who are less, no. Charity starts at home and ends in the home. And against the people as well, when it comes to basically, they're great at showing honor to their boss, but when it comes to their peers, or when it comes to people who are below them in the work, their employees, they're total tyrants, according to, sometimes. We need to be able to have that, to be a giver, to train our giver. We want to be able to have that character trait which will flourish into this and this and this. I put the word, and that one towards Hashem. And looking at the time, lastly, I just want to finish off with this as well. Is a very important principle, which is lo lishma bar lishma. non-altruism leading to altruism. If we're going to say to our kids, be a giver, altruism, you're not going to gain anything from it, that's not how we do it. We start off with a lot of enjoyment. It's got to be super, super fun in giving. Or when it becomes super fun, then we can start, they'll start feeling a bit of the twinge. So I actually had one person who said, my kid's got all these toys. I hear you've got one of these programs where you give one of your toys, give one of your toys to a kid in need. And that's one of our projects. I said, yeah. So I told my kid, you're going to pick which toy and you're going to get it out of her. You've got too many toys now. Don't do that. That's not it. We don't want it to have a bitter aftertaste. But look, they gave the toy, you're right. But that's what you're now planting is that giving is really horrible and painful. It's got to be enjoyable. It's enjoyable. And I've actually had a kid it told me it had an internal battle. They had a blue Power Ranger and a red Power Ranger. And they explained to me I didn't have any spare toys. They're all different. And I wasn't sure and I was thinking that they're different, right? And I wasn't sure which one to give because I didn't have two of the same. They're exactly the same, but one's blue, one's red. And I was thinking to give, and I wasn't sure, and I found it really hard. They didn't give actually in the end. But that's fine, that's great, they had that battle. It's amazing they had that battle, and they'll feel good about it. So we need to make sure that they enjoy it. It needs to be as well, give them a huge cheer on the right age appropriate when they're giving a crisp. For a kid, that's really hard. Huge cheer, amazing, why are you giving a crisp? Absolutely brilliant, okay? Not just rewards as well, but it should be fun. When they're playing together, it just happens to be that sweets just start falling from the sky, or your compliments come when they're playing together. Not, well done, you played together, here's your sweet as a reward. It's not that. It's just for some reason, whenever there's giving, there's always happens to be more nosh around. Pavlov's dog, right? Just be able to actually connect it, that good things happen when you are starting to become a giver. And you should know as well with gift, we have a lot of fun giving ways, okay? If you take kids to Packathon, they love it. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun between 6 and 6:45. There's my plug, okay? And inside the school, we also have bar and bus mitzvah programs. We have actually, if you want to have a bar bus mitzvah, we run a stall where they do the fun craft, but they don't keep it, they give it away. We're actually trying to create a whole new bar mitzvah. We also have summer programs if your kids are younger. And again, it's just fun, fun, fun. Gift is definitely about fun ways of giving. And they have to enjoy. And when they enjoy that, with all that, then please God, that's how we can develop our children to come from me to we. So just to conclude, turning our kids from me to we, stage one is we have to focus on a me. They have to have a me. And it's really, really healthy. They have to be selfish brats. And that is really, really good, seeing how much we give to them. Once they've done that, once they're at the right developmental stage, we start planting and we start building, teaching these concepts about how to be able to start giving in all these different ways and realizing that it starts off, again, not here, boom, 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 boom. It starts here, then it moves outwards. And to realize that giving is not just merely that, but it's this, starting with this, that, and that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Zeidman. Amazing.